Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling Review Series for the 30th of October, 1982. We continue our foray through these, loving the process. I'm actually beginning 1983 probably tomorrow. That'll be awesome. And continuing to bring you the best in pro wrestling audio. Um, and old school wrestling is obviously better than the new school junk that's out there today. In any event, we open this with Joe Ladue versus Johnny Weaver. Basic match, and for the most part, this is a couple of matches of note and more of a I guess a couple of matches of note and more continued squashes. Weaver back in the area for who knows how long, probably a couple of months. That seems to be the go round here. Of course, by Starcade '83, I think he's in the role of being a correspondent, like a reporter type deal. Weaver coming up with Ladue, though Ladue managing to have the television championship at the time, continuing his feud with handsome Jimmy Valiant, and again or Boogie Woogie Jimmy Valiant. And again, some takedowns. Weaver tries to go to work on the leg. Brawler like Ladue, you're not going to get a lot out of that. So continuation of Clash of Styles. Story being told, Ladue, of course, member of the House of Humperdinck, which is a pretty decent deal here. And ultimately, kind of Ladue tries to keep the brawl going. Weaver gets tied up in a modified slam, and then we see Paul Jones cut an interview basically saying he beat Jack Briscoe fair and square, which obviously those that saw that last week, that was not the case. The continuation of the House of Humperdinck's dominance, including the World Television Championship, and again, we also see a shove to Sandy Scott, who is the matchmaker for the area. They're talking about taking the titles away, and obviously Humperdinck and friends are not a fan of that reality. Paul Jones says that he is, without a doubt, the most dominant individual to hold the championship. And again, Sandy Scott saying he wants the championship taken because of the way that Jones won it in the previous week. Jones obviously moving towards being, as I grab my phone, the Mid Atlantic guy to beat at the moment. And then we go into Wahoo versus Tibbs, which is, I mean, it's good enough. I mean, it's very basic, and ultimately, Wahoo versus Tibbs is a sign of more Wahoo needing extra bodies to beat. I mean, Wahoo at this point, not exactly a guy you're going to write home about, but at the same time, also not a guy that you can't get something out of. Very basic punch kick there, and Wahoo kind of holds on to the arm a little bit, tries to get things going, and floats over floats over into various um, you know arm bars and basic stuff. Wahoo McDaniels obviously comes up with chops and other basic maneuvers, and Wahoo gets Snapmares over. Kind of, sort of looking like they're going to go more towards the potential of something like a feud with Greg Valentine in the weeks and months to come, although it doesn't really. The one thing I don't like about Mid Atlantic is they don't really talk about what happens on their house shows a ton, at least not on this particular program. Maybe they do on like a worldwide or something like that. But then we get a promo with Mike Rotundo, which these are not classic promos, but by any stretch of the imagination. But he's coming into his own, beginning to learn how to talk like a babyface. They're hyping the upcoming matches with Leroy Brown. Also, eventually in the weeks and months to come here, there's matches with Dory Funk Jr. to be had. Brown and Rotundo on TV with the number of weeks that they've been feuding is a pretty big deal, and obviously Clash of Styles power from Brown and collegiate style, more catch style from from Mike Rotundo. Selling having such a big thing to do with what works in matches like this, as a big drop toe hold, which wouldn't even be seen as a move today, is sold like $1 million by Leroy Brown. Brown is taken down by Rotundo. Rotundo manages to hang out with Brown and works the leg for several minutes, doing crimps and grapevines. But then we see even a modified spinning toe hold, which isn't brought up as a move of Dory Funk Jr., but it is. So when they move him into having a couple matches with him, that makes sense. But anyway, the snap off by Brown off the ropes, and then, but almost consistently, Mike Rotundo goes back to the leg and stays on his man there. There is a bunch of brawling and, back and forth. There is a pretty brutal-looking piledriver from Leroy Brown, kind of just dropping Rotundo into the position for the piledriver, and looks as though he's almost doing a modified headstand, and Leroy Brown not getting the pin right away, but eventually Brown managing to take out his aggravation on one, Mr. Mike Rotundo, and even Brown shoving the referee a little bit. We go to highlights of a Ric Flair match. Flair beating down various people. Flair coming back to the area. Of course, by 1984-ish, 83, 84, Flair pretty consistently in that, but Valentine also, taking out people. And again, there is a drawing by a fan of Youngblood and Steamboat, who are going to be eventual tag team champions. Highlight by the fan. Kind of the drawing is a pretty good deal there. Then we see Jack Briscoe up next in a match with, I believe, Keith Larson. Let me just double check here. But, Briscoe and Dalton this time around. And I mean, Briscoe kind of key locking on the arm, staying on the arm, trying to get as much of an advantage as he possibly can on that arm for as long as he can. And obviously that is a basic maneuver, but at the same time, Briscoe staying with it. Briscoe obviously wanting to get the belt back from Paul Jones, the Mid-Atlantic Championship. Goes around and really basic maneuvers, tries to get modified, kind of rolls through the headlock and other basic moves here, and eventually we see Briscoe getting another victory. Coming back with a victory right after losing the championship makes a lot of sense. Also gets the atomic drop. Ben Alexander out, kind of making challenges for himself. He's not a guy that you're going to see a lot of promos from, but he's trying to get himself known. Jim Nelson out there still doing the sergeant private deal, wearing the fatigues, but managing to team up with Ben Anderson there, so maybe permanently moved away from Slaughter, not really sure. Still using the Cobra Clutch, though, and also facing off against Steamboat, and Steamboat and Youngblood having that run with them is important. Steamboat and Youngblood against Alexander and Nelson. A pretty basic thing here. Rick Steamboat comes in, arm drags, and stays on the arm. Nelson having come quite a bit over the last, year plus that we've been, or almost year that we've been covering Mid-Atlantic here. And Youngblood, obviously, with the more flashy moves. Steamboat with the more centered moves, and it's just interesting, kind of rolls through. We do see there's a lot of Nelson in there. Alexander only comes in for short stuns, and Valentine out, cutting a promo for the House of Humperdinck. Valentine really in Mid-Atlantic not having major Impact, except that his alignment with Flair is pretty good. Slaughter and Carnoodle basically saying that Steamboat and Youngblood are not ready for the World Tag Team Championships, in their opinion. Also making fun of the drawing and having kind of a stick figure drawing for Steamboat and Youngblood, as it were. And we close on that note. We'll be back with more right after this.